And now, on with the show.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Welcome back, everybody.
Here we are.
We're in how many weeks of quarantine?
365, I believe.
And Jeff, you're feeling every day of it. Still on the front lines. You haven't given up. You haven't given up yet.
Give up. I can't give up. People, now they're ordering furniture. They're redoing their living rooms.
You shouldn't be delivering stuff like that.
Two 93-pound dressers yesterday.
That's not essential.
And the woman's there, and she's got her door open. She wanted me to bring them inside. Ma'am, I said, I'm sorry. This is as far as I go.
I'd like a new couch, but I'm not ordering it right now.
Well, they are.
Jeff,
Rugs.
I hope you're wearing a mask.
I am not wearing a mask. And this is for personal reasons, and we don't need to get into it here. But to me right now, it just brings a negative connotation. Most people like to see me smile. They like to see me, I keep my distance. But you still got people, for every 10, 12 people that run away from me, you got someone like this woman who comes right out the door, takes the package from my hand. Are you being safe out there? And I'm like,
gives you a kiss, rubs your face on yours.
I was being safe until you freaking came out of the house, So we're doing our best. I left work on Friday with guys in hazmat suits scrubbing down the bathrooms. And all I could think of was the scene in Monsters, Inc. where the poor monster comes back with a sock on him.
Right.
I mean, that's really...
That's going to be you.
You should totally do that and see if anybody realizes what that means.
Put a sock on the back of my...
But yeah.
Listen, again, I'm out there working, so I actually have a semblance of some normalcy. I mean, it's crazy, but I'm not locked in this house.
Yeah, it's true.
People are.
You're getting out there.
See, I was a shut-in even before the coronavirus, nothing has really changed.
No, right, yeah.
These circumstances
for this. Yeah.
These circumstances are ideal for me. I don't have to make an excuse not to, go to somebody's house or go out to the diner or whatever.
People are out walking the streets. I got 100 people out here walking every day, and they keep their distance, but it's only so much you can do. I mean, it's human nature to want to connect.
You got to kind of assume, just for sanity's sake, that you probably already have it. And when you go out, you act accordingly, that you don't want to spread it.
Yep. That's basically the way I live my life right now. So anyways, unfortunately, it sounds like a lot of my podcasts I listen to as well are now shuttered or, posting old episodes with little bumpers at the front. Sorry, we couldn't get together. So we're still doing it. We're still creating new content. And I'll tell you right now, our numbers on Instagram are out the wazoo. We'll keep entertaining you, kids. You keep coming back. So we'll get into the news.
Okay. Let's get into the news. Right. Yeah. What do we got?
We have a website now. It's called Masterclass. And I stumbled across this on Facebook. You're already shaking your head. You know of this, Christina? Mm-hmm. But it's crazy because it's like you can take, I think it's for 21 classes, and they range anywhere from 2 to 15 minutes. You get 2 passes for $180, and you can learn to compose musical scores from Danny Elfman himself. But that's not, there's Christina Aguilera's on there, Martin Scorsese, David Lynch, Hans Zimmer, Herbie Hancock, Annie Leibovitz, Neil Gaiman. It's crazy. So you've got all these masters of their crafts on this website that you can now subscribe to their videos and virtually learn. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's a really cool program.
I almost want to pay for it just so Danny Elfman will sing to me. Maybe he'll wave. I don't know. I have a crush on him, by the way. It's a man crush. So that was part of my news. The other was we wanted to talk about these. Marvel has dropped the new social distancing phase 4 dates for all our movies that we've been patiently waiting to see.
Yeah,
no, that was kind of your news, Christina. So if you want to.
Well, I mean, I saw it on the Regal feed, but they've basically bumped out whatever film was supposed to come out. Like they bumped it to the next film's spot. So like Black Widow was supposed to come out in May, and now it's going to be out in November. The Eternals was supposed to come out in November. It's now going to come out in February. Shang-Chi is going to be out May 7th of next year.
That one Benny's really upset about because May 7th is his birthday. And again, Iron Man was like the first one that came out. And so we've always made it a tradition to go see a Marvel movie on his birthday. And he was super excited for Doctor Strange 2. And now he's stuck with Shang-Chi. And he's like, really? He's like, I'm like, give him a chance.
But Jim, you got to give these a chance. I had no history with Guardians of the Galaxy. I was not excited about Guardians of the Galaxy.
I know. I just, Shang-Chi to me is like, but we'll see. Listen, they haven't really done any. I haven't seen anything, though. We haven't seen any trailer. We haven't seen I couldn't even tell you.
And we won't now, probably for several months.
Yeah, so now you're going right into 22. So anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think that the schedule change is probably going to benefit Doctor Strange too, which they had gotten a new director and all this stuff. So I kind of wondering how they were going to make the spring date for next year anyway.
Anyways, yeah. Well, not only that, because they're touting the fact that it ties into Loki. The Disney Plus TV show, so they'll give people more of a chance to see that if that's still in pipelines to come out when scheduled.
Has anybody heard anything about the fate of the New Mutants?
I know. This poor movie. That's right up there with The Hunt, right?
Yeah.
It's like they tease us and they take it away. They tease us and they take it away. At this point, it's been revamped. No, it hasn't been revamped. It's like just.
I read one article before it was actually pushed back yet again because of the current situation. And I think it was the director who insisted there was no reshoots.
Right.
That's not why it was being delayed.
Right, because it was touted as a horror and then they wanted to go back and tweak it. And I don't know. I guess we'll find out eventually. They should just dump it. They're already dumping Artemis Fowl.
Yeah, by the time it comes out, there's going to be no sequel because the kids are going to be too old to do a sequel.
They'll have to do like a flash forward in the Apocalypse Land or something. So, but did you see the trailer for Artemis Fowl in front of? I think it was in front of Onward, Jim, when we saw it.
I think so.
Yeah, they're already dumping it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I saw that.
So they must have no faith whatsoever, or just don't even want to sit on it.
I don't know. I mean, it's a really popular book series.
Oh, I know.
My son loves that book series. So we were actually going to go see it in the theater. I think that there was an audience for it, but probably now they're just figuring does it have enough audience to justify like the streaming cost?
Right.
So if they're not going to do a theatrical release, they might as well make it extra content for Disney Plus subscribers and see if people go over to Disney Plus because they're huge Artemis Fowl
It's almost
fans.
like a PR opportunity for Disney as well. Apart from making donations of money or medical supplies or masks, they could do this as a public service to put out new content, so because people are stuck at home.
Yeah,
and they're not going to do it with Mulan because we've heard that's now pushed back to July
24th.
Mulan, I said July because
July. Yeah, Mulan's coming out in July 24th. Indiana Jones 5, July 29th, 2022. Come on, at this point, just give it up. Really, come on. This is a sign from above.
That's not made though, right? Is that just a projected date?
No, they just announced, I think we talked about it in a recent episode, that they were gearing up for production in the spring. And of course, that's now not going to happen.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nope.
That is the theme for the year. Nobody knows.
Yeah. I don't know. Go into masterclass instead and learn how to write with Neil Gaiman and R.L. Stine, I guess. Simone Biles actually has a channel as well, which I think is really interesting. So there you go. That's
speaking of Neil Gaiman, have we ever talked up the anthology that's out right now with Christina's story, Cursed? Have we been remiss in talking about that?
No, I don't think we have. Yeah,
there is new product out on the shelves, and that could be a very big news item on our agenda. That Christina has a short story right next to Neil Gaiman in the anthology Cursed. Look for it.
Are you definitely right next to him? Are you like page touching each other?
I mean, there's like 19 or 20 authors in the book, and mine is on the cover along with Neil Gaiman.
Nice.
And Emma Carey and Charlie Jane Anders, and the editors. Of course.
We don't care about them.
Yeah.
You should.
I'm kidding.
We've got to make this show worth her while somehow.
I know.
It's got to go two ways.
Blatant plug. There you go.
Yeah. It's a collection of dark. Well, I mean, some of them are dark, some of them are funny, but reimaginings of different kinds of fairy tales or stories involving curses. So it's a really good collection. There's a lot of good stories in it, not just mine. If you're looking for something and you're having trouble engaging like in a deep way, like with a novel, then like a collection of short stories is perfect for you right now.
All right, cool. Go check it out.
Let's get into it then. We haven't even introduced yet what this episode is about.
Hi, I'm Jeff. You're Jim. And that's Christina.
We are not so much clutching at straws yet, because there's still a little pool of new material for us to draw from in the streaming services now that movie theaters have shut down. So we are picking out The Hunt, and I'm very glad that we are, and I'm sure the two of you are as well, because before the virus situation happened, our schedule was so packed with movies coming out, and we had a schedule for the next 2 months.
It was unheard of.
We had big movies.
We actually had a schedule.
Every weekend, we were going to talk about that movie opening, like whether it be Quiet Place or New Mutants or James Bond or all this stuff. And The Hunt, which we all would have liked to have seen and talked about, kind of got relegated because it wasn't as big. It wouldn't put as many bums in seats as some of these other bigger movies. But now everything is wiped away. Our schedule is wiped. And now suddenly The Hunt is available to us on streaming. And what better opportunity than now to talk about it? So we are covering The Hunt today.
Yep.
Along with a choice of mine. Let me put that out there right now. I don't want to implicate anybody else. Hard Target.
I have so many thoughts and feelings, Jim.
Yes, I'm sure. I cannot wait.
There we go.
Is this going to be like a Biden Bernie debate at the second half of this episode?
Do you need to sit down? You want to stand up? I don't know. Well, let's get into this hunt.
A very simple setup. They're both extremely simple setups here.
Yeah.
Although The Hunt
it's the Hunger Games. It's not only the Hunger Games. It's Battle Royale.
But it's written by Damon Lindelof, so you know he's got to throw some curveball
and
in
Cuse.
there.
So Cuse and Lindelof, who of lost fame, and you can love them or hate them because I think they lost their way after a while. But
are you thinking Prometheus specifically?
Well, I'm talking the end game of Lost. Maybe that seems to be very controversial, but
and of course all of these things that Jeff mentioned, and also the movies we're covering this week all go back to The Most Dangerous Game. The short story by Richard Connell, who, by the way, again, shout out to Hudson Valley, was born in Poughkeepsie.
Boom.
In New York.
Ooh.
There you go.
And the original story was about a count who lived on an island, who was a big game hunter, who grew bored with all of the game that he hunted and decided that he wanted game that could think and reason. And so he started hunting humans on his island, basically to amuse himself. It's kind of pretty typical of his time. It's like half the story is basically the Count talking about how much his evil plan, basically. And the other half, the back half of the story, is him hunting this character who fell off the yacht he was on, basically, and ended up, on this island. And it just happens that the guy who Rainsford, who ends up on the island, is also a hunter. So he's a little more tricky in trying to elude him.
Nice.
It has a great ending, though, for what it's worth. So go out and check it out. It's only like 30, 40 pages long.
Okay. Yeah.
So The Hunt, elitists hunting humans. So it's actually, it could be both seen as the 1% against the 99%, red states against blue states, which apparently was its working title. Some people dispute that. The basic setup, you see in the very beginning a character, you don't know who it's played by at first, you just see her from behind, a character by the name of Athena Stone, and she is very high up in a mega corporation, and she's on a text chain with her liberal friends, talking about how our commander-in-chief, did you see what he just said? Nobody is mentioned by name, I should say.
Okay.
But they are upset about something that the president in this film, in the reality of this film, just said. And so they're going back and forth talking about his army of deplorables, meaning his supporters.
Followers, yeah.
And making reference to something called the Manor. And then saying, in this text chain, the hunt is on this weekend, giving the impression that they are going to be hunting and killing these deplorables, as they call them. And then at the last bit of this text chain is Athena or somebody there saying that they need to delete this.
Right.
And that's the opening scene of the movie.
We said to never speak this out loud. Or
right.
So
we're set up that, okay, we know what this is about going in. It's called the hunt.
Right.
So we're set up, okay, these are who are hunting these people that we're going to see a little bit later. And sure enough, the next scene is you see a bunch of all these disparate people waking up in a field.
No. You jumped ahead. They're on the plane first.
Oh, the plane. That is big. That's big. Because
Randy woke up too soon.
So now you see, and you are correct. You do see these people on the plane, and you assume that they're part of this text chain that you saw in the beginning of the movie. They are liberal, but these characters are elitist and they're reprehensible, and that doesn't come through any more so in this movie than on this plane scene, because the guy just completely dresses down, humiliates the stewardess.
Mm-hmm.
She asks if he wants caviar, and she said, have you ever had caviar? It is a really interesting juxtaposition, because right away, as a moviegoer that watches the type of things, and from our political, all of us, I think, are pretty much on the same page politically. As anybody, we like to think that our views are right. And but even the people that we think that are wrong, they think that they're right. So it's an interesting, kind of a throwback that somebody that has the same ideas as you is so reprehensible.
And it's interesting to, I don't know, I'm sure you guys caught this, but there's a billion references to other movies in this film, and two of them are on the plane. So the first one is the guy wakes up and somebody says, what's his name? And somebody says Squealer, I think.
Right. Yeah, some Deliverance.
Right. So Deliverance reference. And then they decide that they have to take this guy out now instead of trying to put him back to sleep. So one of the guys stabs him in the neck with the pen.
The pen.
And it doesn't work. So then Athena, the character who you still only see from behind, shows up and puts her heel through his eye, which is single
white female. Yes. Yeah.
It is pretty grisly. And this guy is old school country bumpkin, cowboy hat, not cowboy hat, but he had, the trucker hat and, overalls, kind of a, flannel.
And not only does she put the stiletto in his eye, but pulls the eye out.
Yeah, out.
With all the entrails, very, Evil Dead 2.
And this is all within the first 5 minutes. It really just.
It's not. There are definite horror elements.
It's very bloody.
Throughout.
It's very bloody. I will say that. There's a lot of shock moments.
But I didn't really know that they were necessary, and honestly, a lot of the effects were obviously CG. So I was kind of did we need?
Yeah.
this?
No. Well, you're not. You're not. I mean, this thing goes out with such a bang. You don't have time to relate to any of these characters or care about them, because you don't know who or what they were beforehand. They're just thrown onto this land and they're scrambling. And the one thing I thought was brilliant was that you were following this one girl, and they wake up and they've got tethered, I don't even know what you call
ball
them,
gags.
Ball gags,
horse bits, right?
Horse bits. Yeah, I guess that's you're right. And they all find themselves into this clearing, and there's a box. So now that, they're all kind of standing around, what the hell's going on? And then you quickly realize that these people are absolutely disposable, because you're like, oh, this is the star of the movie. And then she gets her head blown off. And
because that's Emma Roberts, who is a well-known actress.
Right.
So the camera is following her. She sees Betty Gilpin, and that Betty Gilpin is in the movie. So oh, maybe they're going to team up.
And Betty Gilpin, her character, right off the bat, you see her pulling an old Boy Scout trick, which was she had a pin that she magnetized on her hair. Like we used to take a balloon and you'd create static electricity on your hair. And then she laid it on a leaf, and the leaf turned towards magnetic north. So immediately you knew that she had some kind of skill sets that these other people did not have.
Right.
So
they're waking up in the field, right? And they're all kind of converging on this box, this crate that's in the middle of the field.
Like the Hunger Games cornucopia. you know,
yeah,
like in the
yeah.
middle of the
It's a big race. You go and
Yeah.
I go back to Battle Royale, which, you know,
Mhm.
such a phenomenal movie.
Mhm.
But once you see that movie, you're like, oh, Hunger Games just completely ripped this
Mhm.
off. So anyways, yeah, so they're all racing toward this box that you don't know what's in it. It could be a twap. It could be,
It could-
yeah,
and
that's
one of them
exactly what the
is-
one guy does say, because he's
One
still
of
got
them
the
is
bit mouth.
adamant, like that,
He
you
goes,
know,
it's a twap, it's a
run
twap.
away. So,
As I would.
but all that comes out is a pig
Right, dressed
Yeah.
with clothes.
with
Yeah,
clothes on.
Yeah, clothes
And then
on.
they slowly approach the box, and it's almost as if, like, you know, the creature from Creepshow
I was
going to jump
waiting.
out
I
of
was
the
waiting
box,
for
right?
something to come flying out of there. Yeah,
But no,
a
it's
bear, a tiger, something.
it's like an A-frame that they pull out on wheels, and it's got a whole menagerie
Arsenal.
of weaponry.
It's an
on it.
arsenal. Yeah.
And so this is to keep the hunt interesting, apparently, for these hunters. Now, why would they do this? Well, no, I digress.
Okay.
I'll bring
Yeah,
this up
yeah,
a
yeah,
little
yeah,
bit
yeah,
later
yeah,
because I would be
yeah,
spoiling some things.
We
But
need to go through it and then.
so,
kind
but
of-
yeah, like Jeff was saying, the camera is following this character played by Emma Roberts, who in the credits is just known as Yoga Pants.
Mhm.
Doesn't even
Yeah,
have a
that's the
name.
one thing is they all have like cutesy nicknames for these people. You know,
As
they're
you
not
know,
even
just as if you
worthy.
didn't know them, and that's what you would think in your head. Okay, there's Yoga Pants. There's Dead Sexy, because that's what it says on her shirt.
Right, Molly Moses and Mr. Whimper, I think, are three of the other names.
But
And there's
Emma
12 people.
Roberts-
There's 12 people in total that are, for lack of a better term, the hunted. They're
Chosen.
yeah,
to
the
be
chosen.
hunted.
Yeah.
So Emma Roberts meets Shane, played by Justin Hartley, who is now on this big show on NBC, This Is Us, who I
Okay.
recognized, right? So I'm like, oh, here is two of our main stars, right? And
Right.
as Jeff said, 5 minutes in, Emma Roberts gets her head blown off. So
Which is
that
a
was
real
shock.
like what? It is a
That
shock
was-
moment. Yeah.
That was genuinely surprising and
Yeah.
shocking that
Yes.
happened so soon.
You know, I was, from a storytelling point of view, though, I was actually disappointed that the pig didn't mean anything beyond the obvious symbology.
I know.
Because, like, my first thought was, like, the keys to the gags are in, like, the pig's pockets. Or
Right.
something,
Correct. Yeah.
you know, and then it was like, well, then it turns out they were taped on the back of the
The door. Yeah.
crate. I was like,
Yep,
so
yeah.
why is the pig there? Then?
Yeah,
Like-
they did fall short with that whole Animal Farm snowball reference. I could have gone more.
In this initial set piece here, a number of these characters get killed. Dead Sexy, unfortunately, gets killed like 3 times, but doesn't die.
Right. That's like you said, the special effects. You know, because at one point she's literally blown in half and she's laying on spikes and. Yeah, it was blood and guts for the sake of blood and guts, but it wasn't. To me, it's like if you're gonna orchestrate a hunt and then kill half of your quarry in the first 2
Like
minutes,
immediately
you're doing a
before
piss
they
poor
even
job.
know what's going on.
Right?
Yeah.
Why even give them weapons then?
Yeah.
Just put them in a pen and shoot them and be like, oh, I got him. So in that regard, some of the story, we keep going. Let's go.
So I don't know how many get killed, but most of the group of these abducted people are killed in this field. So some disparate people they escape and they make their way to the nearest road, and they run down to what they think is a service station / convenience store.
And before that, there is a Jurassic Park reference.
With the gate.
The fence.
Yeah.
Like, he's climbing over the fence and
Yeah.
like he's in jeopardy. He's going, just look at me, I'll help you, you know, like
Right.
look at me, just like Dr. Grant. And the funny thing is he's even dressed like Dr. Grant. He's wearing a denim shirt and
Yeah.
green pants.
Yeah.
There's so many references to other films, and even the gas station attendants not quite being what they are, to me, is a reference to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I
Also,
think.
well,
Yeah.
and also Cabin in the Woods, I got
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah,
That whole
yeah.
setup gas station.
Yeah. So we talked about Mandy last week, you know, leaning heavily on a lot of these references to other movies, and 99% of them going over my head. But
Mhm.
this movie, and I thought this was very well done. I thought it was very clever. I mean, at times it bordered on being satirical. I mean, because you get to a point where none of them are likable.
No.
You just
No, the hunted, you're not on their side really, except for Betty Gilpin.
Right.
And tellingly, you're never really told what her politics are. And that's the reason why these people are here that are being hunted. The gas station. There's 3 extremely reprehensible characters that find this gas station that you don't really feel sorry for.
When they go down, because they're
hunted
just,
in this
yeah,
situation.
they're just cattle at this point, right?
One guy, was he from New York? The
Yes,
Staten
yeah.
Island.
well-dressed
Staten
guy.
Island. Yep.
Yeah.
He's
Then you had
calling on
one
the
guy from
phone.
Orlando who looked like Post Malone with tattoos all over his face.
And they're trying to figure out like where they are.
Right.
And I think that was the lady behind the counter basically said, "You're in Arkansas."
Arkansas, and the New York guy said, Arkansas.
Right, exactly.
Like that is
exactly.
the epicenter of everything that's wrong in the country.
Right, exactly.
And then you had the racist woman from Wyoming, and that rounds out the trio of people that find this gas station. And so she's going through while the New York guy is talking to the elderly couple behind the counter, and she's eating a donut and suddenly starts to froth at the mouth.
Yep.
And you realize watching it that this is not what it seems, and that this is a setup as well for these characters. But one of the funniest lines in the movie, I thought, was when that girl went down after she ate the donut. The Post Malone guy from Orlando says, "Get some water, dude. I think she's Dianetic." So yeah, they get taken out. The elderly couple behind the counter are two of the hunters as well.
Yeah.
And so all three get killed. And again, like I said, you don't really feel sorry for seeing them go because they are such base characters. They get dragged into the back room, and then they get word on the radio that somebody else is coming, and it's Betty Gilpin's character, Crystal May. And she comes in completely calm, like assessing the situation, right?
Yeah.
So she's not giving any indication to them, really.
But meanwhile,
something is wrong.
the elderly couple had time to mop up all the blood and drag the bodies into the back. So, I mean... but the whole thing is a shell game because, even at one point when she buys the pack of cigarettes, there's no cigarettes in it. It's all like a stage. It's just another prop in this hunt to give them, I don't know, false sense of making it to point B or something. So yeah, this is a great scene though.
Yeah, she works out internally almost immediately that this is wrong as well.
Right, because they blow it by charging her too much for the cigarettes.
Yeah.
See, they tell her she's in Alabama. I mean, I'm sorry, Arkansas.
Arkansas. Yeah.
And she gets the change back, and then she's like, "You bitch! Cigarettes in Alabama or Arkansas are only $6," and then just jumps the fence and grabs the gun and goes to town.
And the funny thing was, right before she said that, literally right before, I said, "Wow, cigarettes are really expensive in Arkansas too."
Oh boy!
But it's a great scene because like they're both kind of playing that nothing is wrong.
Right.
Like Betty is, and they are too, because at this point that they're in on it, and they're both. You're waiting for that shoe to drop, like who's going to give in first. But it's a nice tense scene. So they get killed. She leaves and works off that license plate. That Arkansas license plate on the car, and then it realizes that she's not even an American.
This was a great reveal, by the way, when we find out where they are, because that ties right into your Jared Leto story last week. They were on Mars Island all along.
They're on Mars Island, on the other end of Mars
That's right.
Island.
But here's the thing: the humor is very, very topical, but it's also really broad. I wished. Almost throughout the movie, I wished the satire was a little sharper. I wished
it was a broad net. It wasn't really hammering down to a specific point. It was like, we're gonna make fun of everybody.
But that wasn't it. It was more that I think the movie is not as smart as it thinks it is.
No, because the more you think about it, the more it really kind of falls apart. And I enjoyed it for an hour and a half or however long it was. It was a fun ride. I was there watching it, and by the end, you are on Crystal's side.
It does not hold
right,
up under scrutiny.
Yeah.
It would have been better if they hadn't bothered with the political overtones and just had straightforward, these are people who haunt people. I think it would have been in some ways more effective because I feel like the references and whatnot, I think it's going to end up dating the movie. And I think Betty Gilpin is outstandanding in this movie. I had never seen her in anything before.
Yeah, I know. She was fun
she
to watch,
is actually on the show Glow on Netflix, and she's
the lady wrestler.
Besides Allison Brie, who is the lead on the show, she's like the second lead, and she plays like the Hulk Hogan of this Glow cadre of women wrestlers. And her stage name is Liberty Bell. So not too far removed from the character that we see.
It would be
here.
great
She
if they
is
actually
great.
revealed that she was the character from Glow.
Right. She is
was a
great
wrestler.
on Glow, but she actually plays an out-of-work soap opera actress who takes on the role of Liberty Bell in this. But she's great on that show, and she's great in this.
You know what this reminded me of a lot was Ready or Not, but I think that was a much better movie.
Betty Gilpin just reveals herself as the movie goes on. Like she had to have been in the service or something because she is control.
Yeah.
A great scene where
ex-military,
after you figure out that they're in Croatia, right? That's the only like reality that they encounter is when they're taken off the train and all these Croatian soldiers are processing these refugees in this camp. And they say, well, we're Americans. We've been hunted.
Right.
And they don't really believe them, but they call the embassy and this guy comes to take them away. And it turns out he's just a plant as well.
Yeah. She was a fun character to watch, though.
Her arc, she has an arc, like unlike anybody else that's being hunted here, really.
Right.
But that brings her, that whole scene in the car that I was just talking about, this fake U.S. Embassy representative was actually bringing them back to the manor, which only exists now because of this text message that they were doing. This
is where, right, because now you start getting into the end game, and it's revealed Athena, the lady who was running this whole thing, is Hilary Swank, and she's looking mighty fine, I might add. That this whole thing didn't exist. That because what happened was all these people, these elitists, lost their job because this text message went viral, and they all lost their positions, and they were accused of hunting people. She claims that that's not the case, but because it's like your significant other claims you're cheating. At one point, you're like, I'm not cheating on you. And he's like, well, if you're going to accuse me of it, I might as well do it. So this is the whole impact. So they said, all right, well, if people think that we're hunting humans, then let's do it. And that's like the stupidest.
And they actually hunt all the people that believed. So
yeah, on social media.
This is like the ultimate celebrity's revenge on people that troll them on Twitter and whatever. They actually found the people that got them fired, that spread the
and that's
fake
what the
news
connection was between all these
phrase
people. Yeah,
that this manor thing is real. So they picked however many people that were spreading this and chose to hunt them. So they turned fiction into reality, basically. So they've never done this before. They are amateurs at hunting. Right. So this brings us back to why give these people weapons if they've never hunted people before? Why give them the opportunity?
And they have a guy who was in the National Guard as their consultant.
A consultant.
None of them will listen to him.
No, because they're all idiots. They're at one point they're in the bunker and they're kind of berating each other. Oh, what were you doing over there, Joe? And the Far East? Oh, you were creating world peace. Just
in the bunker. There's a few funny throwaway lines where they're admonishing each other. Like one guy comes out wearing a kimono, and the other one says that's an appropriation. And, it's like they're still being so PC, but in the midst of all this carnage.
And that's the scene in the bunker is when you find out that she was in the service, that she was in Afghanistan.
Right.
And like you could definitely tell that she was, because she's just clearly so much more competent than everybody else.
Yeah, because she was really assessing the situation at every turn. Like you said, go back to that scene where she walks into the convenience store gas station, and she's where the other people come flying in. We're being hunted. We got to help us. Give me the phone. She just kind of coolly walks in and checks it out, orders her cigarettes or whatever. She's parsing it out. So we didn't mention that the poor pig got shot, though, or will.
We didn't mention the jackrabbit and the turtle story either.
The tortoise and the hare. That's a version I've never heard before.
Yeah, the very dark version.
It's almost like they were trying to have their own USS Indianapolis scene, like right in the middle.
Right, correct.
Movie.
This is after she ran over the embassy guy. And she's sitting in the trunk of the car. They find Gary in the back, by the way.
It kind of does feed into the overall message of the movie, this story, this.
But then Don points out point blank, well, what are we? Are we the tortoise or are we the hare?
Yeah. And that's
right. And you're just kind
question of this movie, right?
That is a question.
Are we the bad guys or the good guys?
Yeah. And at one point when you see the flashback, and you start seeing like the machinations when this elitist group decided this is what they're going to do, and they're forming a plan or whatever, and they're going through all of the people that they're going to capture or whatever, and they latch on to Crystal, and Athena says point blank, she's our snowball. So now you're like, all right, that's either she's a snowball because she's going to like roll downhill and get bigger and bigger. I don't know. No, it's the reference to Animal Farm and Snowball being the lead pig. So there's Animal Farm references in here, but like Christina said, I don't think they dug deep enough into that. The pig alone was
right. The pig was called Orwell.
Orwell, yeah. But that fight sequence, the end fight sequence between Athena and Crystal, is right up there with the fight scene in They Live. Put the glasses on, and it's just hammered. It's just all out.
Yeah.
Chaos.
It was like one of the Kill Bill fight scenes.
I thought of that too.
Yeah. That's another. Yeah.
But we haven't mentioned that. Like the big reveal is that this is the wrong Crystal May. This was a mistake that they abducted this.
But they had her
person.
picture. So here's where I didn't think that. Because right, I mean, Athena's dying, and she's like, "All right, just tell me the truth. Are you really the real Crystal?" And she's like, "No, you got the wrong one." She goes, "Well, damn."
So she didn't know anything about the manor. She didn't spread anything about the manor. She has no stake in this game whatsoever.
The picture is weird though, because the picture, she's sitting there, and no, she's wearing her uniform for
okay. I thought it was orange, like an orange.
Yeah, she works at a car rental agency. She says she works at a car rental agency.
Yes.
And she's sitting at a desk, and someone is giving her the finger. So it's pretty clear that this is not like her profile photo. Right. This is somebody else took a picture of her because they hate her guts or whatever
Maybe she
reason.
Wouldn't give their money back for a car rental.
Right, there you go.
I mean,
they found Gary in the trunk. They're like, yeah, I don't want this car.
Yeah, the picture to me was weird to begin with. I was like, clearly it's not her like taking a selfie or like posting a picture of herself. Like, why would she post a picture of someone giving her the finger? You know what I mean?
Interesting.
There's a huge fight, and they end up, Crystal's character and Athena's character impale each other with this Cuisinart type blade from the kitchen.
Oh my gosh, when I saw that, I got scared because I have one of those Cuisinart food processors. Those blades are sharp. They are sharp.
Yeah.
You got to be careful when you watch
right in the bread basket. Ooh.
So it goes into Crystal May's gut, and then she kind of draws in Athena and impales her. And then in the process, when they separate, it comes out of Crystal May, and now it's stuck in Athena. Yeah. And that's the killing blow. And then as they're both lying there, you think that they're both going to die, but then Crystal sees the jackrabbit jump into the
in the door frame. Yeah.
There's the tie back to the story, and then she has her second wind. She gets up, cleans herself off, puts on the best dress that she can find.
She cauterizes her wound.
Yeah.
With the creme brulee to her.
Right. Yeah. Hey, whatever's available, right?
She gets on the plane and is nice to the stewardess. Yeah. So the only likable character in the entire movie.
Yeah, because they're still sitting on the plane. The pilot and the stewardess. Yeah. And she gets on, she's all cleaned up, and like you said, she puts on this sexy dress, but she's got scars or whatever. And she goes, "Your employers just tried to kill me. You have to fly me home." And we find out that she's from Mississippi, by the way. I don't know if that means anything significant, but and then the stewardess tries to give her caviar. She goes, "Have you ever had caviar?" And she goes, "Oh no, I'm not allowed to eat it." And she goes, "You are now." So stewardess sits down and they partake in. Oh, she takes the bottle of champagne and just chugs it. By the way, it was a movie. That's for sure. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. Yeah. It was escapist.
It was good in the moment. It was good in the moment to watch it.
Yeah. No, it's escapist fun for an hour and a half.
Like I said, I wish that it was that either that the satire was sharper, that it was structured a little better. I would have liked to see more Hilary Swank in the movie, who is clearly the only competent one amongst her circle.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like Crystal's the only competent one in her circle. Like, I would have liked to have actually seen a hunt between the two of them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Not a battle. Yeah.
Yeah,
like a hunt of wits. Yeah.
Yeah, like something where they were pitting their wits against each other. I don't know. I think Betty Gilpin is great. Hilary Swank's always great. I wish they had a better movie. That was, in the end, that was how I felt about it. I was like, well, I enjoyed watching it because I liked Betty Gilpin. I thought she was really, really effective. But I don't think I really even laughed at most of the jokes. I was kind of like,
no.
It just seemed like cheap shot to me.
Yes, yeah.
Like I said,
it wasn't taken aside, so it was really just.
I think the movie's not as smart as it thinks it is, and that was to its detriment. There was a lot of ways they could have done this.
It only played for a week.
I was going to say it did
before everything got shut down.
Yeah.
So it only made, I'm not sure if they're releasing box office figures for streaming.
It's not even, I don't even know if it's fair to.
But it cost $14 million to make, and it made 6.5 in theaters in that week that it was out there. So I assume, because given the scant amount of choices of new releases that are out, because whenever you go to Amazon, or I think it might be on Hulu too, those are always the movies on the top of my banner, like The Hunt, Onward, all the most recent ones, Invisible Man, Call of the Wild. So those are the ones, and you're assuming that a lot of people now are watching it. So I'd be curious to see like what that does add to the numbers.
I wonder if people would be more willing to give it a try at home.
Yeah.
Than they would, in the theater.
And how much was it? 19? Did you pay 20 bucks for it? $19.99?
Yeah,
so did I.
Yeah,
again,
which, if you have a house full of people to watch it with, but whatever, everything for the show, right?
Yeah. Jeff has got some bitterness because he's got that Regal app.
I do have my Regal. Whatever. It is what it is.
So let's do buckets on this. It's faint praise with our buckets, maybe.
I don't know. Listen, for what it was, I enjoyed it. I'll give it a 3.5.
3.5. Really?
I did give it 3.5. It kept me entertained. It was. I don't know what I was expecting, but it's been a rough week. Let's put it that way. So I was very entertained.
Okay. I'm going 3, and that's mainly for Betty Gilpin.
I'm going 2.5.
Nice.
Basically for Betty Gilpin and Hilary Swank. Like, really, the rest of the movie, I think sometimes, like, because I'm a writer, sometimes I'm looking at the structure of the movie
absolutely.
And things, and I'm like, they could have done X, they could have done Y, and it's one of those things where it's like, when you know how the sausage is made, you can't unmake
it. Yeah,
type of thing.
That's fair.
And so I just kept hoping for more from this movie. My son, by the way, was right there with Jeff. He gave it 3.5.
There you go.
Your family gives buckets now too?
Oh yeah, they do. And in fact, my son's always trying to like talk up my buckets. He's like, you should give it more because of this or that, the other thing. So he was very engaged in this.
Good.
But also, I think that he didn't get most of the political
references.
So for him, it was just a movie about people getting shot.
Right. Have their head blown off. Torsos flying through the air.
Yeah, like I said, my whole family watches basically every movie with me. So, like, we're a family of movie people. So they're always engaged in the outcome. Like, and they're always like, well, what buckets are you going to give to
That's pretty funny. How could you give it that low or that high?
So that brings us to the end of the hunt, and we're going to the concession stand now. And I have pulled out the old Pick mosquito coil commercial in honor of one of the characters in our upcoming movie, Hard Target. So we are going to the concession stand, and we are coming right back.
Men, there's a drive-in movie full of juicy people. Wow! It's a trap! Help! It's Pick! We've had it, men.
A pleasant aroma for you, but not for mosquitoes. Pick is easy to use. Light it and forget it. The exclusive aluminum-lined ashtray top means not an ash falls on the dash. Pick's aroma keeps mosquitoes, gnats, and sandflies away. Pick is the best protection for barbecues, fishing and camping trips, or just relaxing in the yard. No more sleepless nights or mosquito bites. Pick is harmless to children and pets, too.
So if you don't want our company ever anywhere, just like Pick and see what I mean? Bye.
Pick is on sale at the refreshment stand now.
This drive-in theater is radioactive. Now you can hear tonight's show on your AM car radio. Turn your ignition key to the accessory position. This will not drain your car battery. Now turn on your radio and zero in on the following AM station.
Okay, we're back.
Ooh, that was quick.
Yes, and this was my pick for a matchup with The Hunt. And again, it is a very similar story, not as convoluted in terms of political
more straightforward.
correctness and partisanship and blah, 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 red state, blue state, blah. It's basically have and have nots is what's going on in Hard Target. Now, some background. The reason that I chose this movie is because this was made in 1993. It is, as we all know, John Woo's first U.S. production, the first production ever of a big U.S. Hollywood movie by a Chinese director, or Asian director, I believe, period. So it is a landmark in some ways. I think we can all concede to that, at least in those terms. So this came out in 1993, and this was the height of the single action movie star. You had Arnold still in his heyday. You had Stallone still in his heyday. You had Steven Seagal coming up and making movies, one after the other. And kind of like the also ran in this plethora of action films was Jean-Claude Van Damme. And all of these movies are ridiculous, but they're well loved by a certain faction of males that are of a certain age from this time period. My friends and I used to go to these movies, and I would say that we were fans of we were definitely Arnold fans, absolutely, bar none. And we were also Jean-Claude Van Damme fans. We had seen some of his earlier movies, like Bloodsport is one, Double Impact, I think, is another, Time Cop.
Time Cop, that was the one I was going to bring up.
They're not to be taken seriously. None of these movies are to be taken seriously. They're not good movies by any stretch of the imagination. But the key is that they're fun. My friends and I had gone to see a Steven Seagal or an Arnold or a Jean-Claude Van Damme like this one. If we sat there, laughed, and felt like we needed to give each other high fives or chest bumps or shake a beer can and spray it all over the theater after the movie was done, then it served its purpose.
Wow.
And Hard Target, I think, was unique. It was a Jean-Claude Van Damme film, yes. But it was also a John Woo movie, which elevated it even before we saw it. So we're like, oh, this has got to have something to it. And it had Lance Henriksen, had Arnold Vosloo. What did I call him? Andrew last week? But no, it is Arnold Vosloo from the Mummy series, which came later. And it has Yancey Butler from Witchblade, which also came later. So, and Wilford Brimley. So it's got a cavalcade of stars. It's also got Sam Raimi's attachment to it. Ted Raimi has got a cameo in this. So all my cinematic references were kind of converging, past and future, colliding
in a beautiful
in movie,
calliope.
Then after a few years later, I'd see the Mummy. Oh, that's the guy from Hard Target,
right?
Or Witchblade. That's the girl from Hard Target. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, Van Damme kind of faded away with the 90s over time, but the movie never really has. And Christina, very helpfully, by the way, texted right after I announced last week that this was the movie that I wanted to choose. She texted out a Hollywood Reporter article that was written a couple years ago about this. And it's kind of like a behind the scenes interview. Not only was it an interview with John Woo, but it was like a little behind the scenes of how this thing was made, and which is helpful because there are no bonus features that I've ever seen about this. And it just talks about how Woo kind of had to traverse that Hollywood system, being used to making movies in China, in Hong Kong, and how he still likes it. It's not a great movie, he admits, but he thinks there are things that work. He enjoyed working with Van Damme, even though he may have had some ego issues. But I think it's a really fun movie, and I can still laugh out loud at it as I'm watching it, but happily so. Every slow motion kick to the head where somebody's sunglasses fly off in slow-mo, or the cigar gets knocked out of a mouth in slow motion is very deeply satisfying.
You get glee out of it.
So the setup is that Yancey Butler. We open with somebody being hunted. It's Lance Henriksen plays Fouchon. Everybody's got like a French Cajun type.
Well,
of
it's
name.
in New Orleans, so
it's in New Orleans, but Lance Henriksen is not from New Orleans, but still he's got that name. Fouchon, and his right-hand man, played by Arnold Vosloo, is Pick Van Cleef. And that's an interesting name because John Woo is just such a lover of American Westerns. So I'm wondering if that has anything to do with Lee Van Cleef, the name of this character. These two are enabling millionaires to hunt humans. So for the fee of $500,000, they will facilitate a hunt. They go to a certain city, they do one of these hunts, and then they pick up and they go somewhere else. They're finding people homeless or people that don't have any ties to anybody else, that wouldn't have any questions raised once they go missing. So we see this person being hunted, and it's a very almost Raimi-esque type of scene because the millionaire has picked a crossbow. So you see every shot you're following
the
that
camera's
arrow,
right with the arrow,
almost like a like a Raimi type of shot, right?
Yeah.
So, and the stakes are is that this person has a money belt tied around his waist and he has to make it to the river in order to avoid being killed. Now, if that actually would happen, if they would not kill him, we don't know, because they actually do kill him before he makes it to the river. And so you see a successful hunt take place at the very beginning of this movie. And then it goes to this homeless person's daughter who comes to New Orleans and is looking for him. And there's a police strike going on, which is very convenient to this story because you see no police presence whatsoever when any of these hunts are going on. So she has no police to help her find her father. So she enlists Chance Boudreaux, played by Jean-Claude Van Damme, an out-of-work merchant seaman who insists on calling this girl's father her daddy. Every time that he references her, she's looking for her daddy, her papa. And in a couple
I loved his French accent, by the way. Or lack thereof.
In every single one of his movies, they have to give some explanation for his accent, whether he's, Belgian, which he really is, whether he's French Cajun, whether he's from Canada, they've always got to give some explanation, which they don't really do for Arnold. He's just Arnold in all of his movies, but I digress. So that's the basic setup, is they uncover this insidious hunting organization. And once they get wind that Chance knows about them before they leave New Orleans, they have one last hunt there, going after Chance himself. You can attack me now.
That's pretty much it. Well, that smoldering kick-ass mullet, man.
Yeah, the mullet, like in The Hollywood Reporter, that is a character in itself.
Yes.
It is lustrous. It bounces when he runs. Now, remember, Jeff, that you had made fun of the way that Brie Larson in the Captain Marvel suit ran? I think he runs pretty similar to her.
Similar. Maybe she was copying him. I don't know. The longer we're in isolation, we're all going to have mullets again anyway. So
yeah, it's a dumb action movie with some artful John Woo direction, and it's got doves. It's got some slow motion.
Oh yeah,
doves.
we got to have the slow motion pigeon and doves.
Smoldering.
There's a nice jazz riff blues going on in the track.
Yeah, very 90s.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is definitely dated you. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun. Different.
Yeah.
Christina's quiet. And
remember what your parents said, if you don't have anything nice to say.
I just want to preface this by saying that
I quit the show.
I am a woman, and I was therefore not compelled by some masculine imperative to watch crap action movies throughout the 80s and 90s. So I've never actually seen a Van Damme movie, A, on purpose, or B, all the way through.
You can cross this off your list then.
So my husband had watched a few Van Damme movies. He thought he hadn't seen this one, but it turns out he hadn't. He had actually wiped it from his memory. And I was willing to give it a chance because John Woo directed it, and I'm a huge fan of his work. But right from the get-go, this movie has all of John Woo's excesses, but none of his energy. To call this an action movie, the first hour is like a snoozer. Nothing really happens. If you think about the tea house scene opening Hard Boiled, how dynamic that is, the opening of this scene by comparison is like moving underwater. And I know from the Hollywood Reporter article that a lot of the stuff that we would normally do got cut out because the MPA was very concerned, and they wouldn't give him the R rating. So I can only think that the film would have been better if he was working in Hong Kong, if he had sort of been allowed to do what he normally would do. Hey, by the way, Van Damme is a terrible actor.
Oh yeah, he is.
He's
and yet he kept getting movies. He kept getting work.
He's a talking block
That's not
of
a
wood.
Revelation to me.
Right.
Seriously, every time he talked, I was like, it's like a block of wood is moving its lips. There's nothing going on there.
Leaving a theater after seeing this, his lines are eminently quotable in his wooden delivery.
Right.
So that's some of the joy as well.
Yeah.
But
plus you can punch a
Hollywood
snake.
Reporter article, oh, by the way, when he punched the snake, I was like, I'm out. Done for me.
That was it.
I was
but Arnold punches his camel, right? In Conan.
Like this
That's
is
like there can't be a double standard here.
the jumping the shark moment. He punched the snake. I was like, I really don't need to watch the rest of this movie.
Oh, you missed the best part then.
No, I mean, it was on, but I cannot
Right.
say my brain was engaged.
Okay.
In the Hollywood Reporter article, they mentioned that John Woo originally wanted Kurt Russell. And even though there's a lot of things that I think would have still been wrong with the movie, I could just imagine how much energy Kurt Russell would have brought to the part by comparison. Like, that Kurt Russell at least has some charisma. There would have been, just more
personality.
But to his credit, Van Damme initiated this with the producers. They went to John Woo himself and wanted him because they loved his work. And and it would have been a different movie. It would have been a better movie if Kurt Russell was in the lead. But he was busy, and then the studio wanted this as a Van Damme vehicle.
The one person I was happy to see in this movie actually was Casey Lemons, who plays the detective.
She's got a very memorable part.
I'm like a really big fan of hers. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her work. She didn't make that many films as an actress. Like memorably, she was in Silence of the Lambs, and she was also in Candyman, the original Candyman. But she's a director. She directed Eve's Bayou. She directed Harriet, which came out last year. She's super talented. I'm like such a big fan of hers. I was like, Casey Lemons, and then she died. I was like, why am I even watching this movie? She's dead now.
You're watching it because I chose it.
I know.
Revenge is sweet, Jim.
So,
all right, I watched it.
So now you're saying you watched it. You're not even saying you enjoyed it anymore. Here we go.
No, I'm gonna tell you right now. I gave it 3 buckets. I enjoyed it. Again, listen, it's been a hell of a week for me, dude.
The Hunt. Come on, you're giving this less buckets than The Hunt.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
Wilford Brimley. You know what I have to say to you?
Wilford Brimley.
You know what I have to say to you, both of you? Moufie poton enfant. Whatever that means.
His accent is super bad, by the way. Like he just sort of drifts in and out.
Yeah, no. It was...
And of course, after he gets hit, you know that he gets hit in his flask, right? When he gets hit with the arrow at the end. What does he say at the end? I don't think I can dance, but I can get up. Chance.
I'm sure I saw this back in the day. I don't think I ever saw it in the theater. 93? No.
And I'd like to point out that Wilford Brimley is actually doing his own horse riding. I can't say the same for Van Damme, but to see Wilford Brimley riding a horse
in slow motion,
with an explosion behind him.
And the mustache is like, it's like a big white butterfly.
Did you have a favorite kick to the head, Jeff, in this movie?
I kicked myself in the head afterwards. No, I didn't.
No, I think the highlight of this action-wise for me is the final blow to Lance Henriksen after he drops the grenade, which is also in The Hunt. There's
the old hand grenade in the pants.
Hand grenade in the pants. Lance Henriksen manages to get it out of his pants. He undoes it, and there's this wonderful moment where he takes it apart and he thinks he's done, and then a spark. He's like, "Whoops!" And then he blows up.
Yeah, the Donkey Kong barrel jumping I thought was fun there at the end.
Yeah. And of course the huge silhouette of that guy's huge stomach before Arnold Vosloo karate chops.
I don't know. I've been to New Orleans quite a few times, and the one thing that doesn't come through is how freaking hot it is down there.
I know.
No one was sweating. Nobody was sweating. They're running around chasing each other and not a drop of sweat.
Oh, Lance was pretty glistening at the end after they set him on fire and he got his coat on.
But that was the thing. Like Lance Henriksen and Arnold Vosloo are wearing like sweaters and heavy coats.
Yeah, they are. It's like winter. It's like winter.
No, it's sweltering down there, dude. I almost died.
Oh, and of course, I can't talk about this movie, and this could be our final point. But my favorite line in the movie, besides outside of Wilford Brimley, is where she asks him what kind of a name is Chance, and the line is, "My mama took one." And
stupid. Well, you mentioned Sam Raimi before, but you didn't expound on that. The fact that the studio hired him. Yeah, no. So Sam Raimi was hired to shadow Wu in case he wasn't able to handle this. So Sam Raimi,
but he became his biggest ally. It was like
He's like, dude, the guy's got it, man. But you mentioned it before, like with the arrow. So you feel that there was some cross pollination with the two of them, maybe. talking about shots or scenes, or if he became more of a confidant kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
I like it.
Listen, it was, like I said, I gave it 3. I enjoyed
It's
watching
personal. It's a personal favorite of mine. I'm
can't
not going to go
argue,
much more than 3 myself. So
Okay.
I'm going to go 3.5 with me. So we'll trade buckets on
There you
the
go.
hunt.
Fair.
So I think I want to close my ears and go na 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 as Christina gives her bucket.
You're gonna have to listen to it again when you
Yes.
edit, anyways.
So it's not as low as Condor Man, which is still a low point.
Okay, so that is actually a concession that
that's-
I am very grateful for. Thank you.
So I gave it 1.5, 1 bucket for the presence of Casey Lemons, and half a bucket because John Woo directed it.
There you go.
My son kept trying to talk me up. He's like, you should give it 3. He's like, come
See?
on.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you.
You got to start watching movies like a 13-year-old. Movies like this, I mean, that's unfortunately sometimes what you got to do. Right.
Yeah, I don't know. My problem is I think there's this film illustrates a really fundamental difference though between me and Jim. I don't mean this in like a disparaging way. Jim gets revitalized by bad movies, and I get exhausted by them.
You're like, draining my will to live here.
Exactly.
See, this is the yin and yang that this show needs.
It does, yeah.
It would be boring if we just
We're
agreed
all
on
the same
everything.
page. Agreed. Just ask Mike.
So, okay, let's get into our confessional.
Confessionals.
Now, what we did with this confessional, we are, again, going the random route. And I like this random route. It doesn't have to tie in.
No, it would be tough.
I was
Who would you like to hunt?
What could you possibly ask that would tie into these movies, right? So we're going random again. Jeff, this is yours, so take it away.
Basically, what was the question? Was
what fictional family would you like to identify?
Right, fictional family would you, whether it be television or movies, TV family, I believe.
You said TV.
TV family.
Specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Would you be a part of and why?
All right, you got to go first because I know you have an answer.
Oh, you want me to go first? Well, to be honest with you, I was going to be a real jerk about it and say the Huxtables, and just for the Jello pudding pops and roofies. But yeah, sorry. I'm going with the Brady household. I want to be a Brady.
Would you take the place of any Bradys, or would you be
I
among
don't. Well,
all
I'd
the
probably
Bradys?
more than likely I'd be Jan, unfortunately. But come on, that was a groovy house.
It was.
They
had a
had
den,
a variety
and they had an
show.
attic.
Not only that, they also had a live-in maid. What the hell did Mrs. Brady do? She didn't have a job, did she? So why do you need a maid? You do all the work.
She has 6 kids. She needs
I know that was a
housekeeper.
lot. Yes. I don't know. That's where I went with it. Did you ever see the recently HGTV purchased the house, the original house that shows up at the
I did hear that.
opening?
I did hear that.
And they remodeled it to look exactly like the set. Which, even as a kid, I realized there's no. If you look at the house, the peak is on the left-hand side, so there's no second floor for that staircase to exist. But they were able to figure it out. They actually dormered out the back of the house, and they built it, and they brought in the actors, all the kids who were still alive, and they renovated this house. The only thing that they couldn't replicate exactly was Greg's bedroom in the attic. They had to put it in the basement. But it's like a very Brady renovation or something. It was like 2 or 3 episodes, but it was really cool. I mean, to me, the Bradys are very nostalgic, growing up watching those guys. And, Dad fixed everything within a half hour, as every television show was.
Yes, he did. And
the Bradys.
It's funny to me. It's like that there's eras of Bradys where when the show started, they were very buttoned down, conservative looking. Everybody had short hair, combed over. Mm-hmm. And then as the years went on, the afros started to grow out. And
then you got the funky, the singing group. Yeah. Then they were kind of like groovy 70s. You know.
All right, Brady's.
What season did Cousin Oliver show up?
Probably not till the last.
Not gonna say season 5 or
that
something.
Show was Cousin Oliver.
Well, they needed that cute factor again. I think the kids are getting too old, so that's my choice.
Would you like to?
I feel like I just brought this to a screaming halt.
No,
I don't know how this is going.
This actually, I was really struggling with this one because I don't know if I've ever told you guys this, but I watch very little television, and I have watched very little television over my lifetime.
No, you're like my wife.
In the late 80s, early 90s when I was watching TV, I wasn't watching shows that had families per se.
Okay.
Like I remember watching 21 Jump Street and like Twin Peaks, X-Files. Like I'm going, there's no family in that. There's no family in that. There's no family in that. The one thing I have watched though consistently through my life is cartoons. So, and I want to be a part of the Scooby-Doo group.
Nice.
Yeah. I would much like, I always loved Scooby-Doo, and I think in a lot of ways it actually dictated my taste for my life because like it's got mystery, it's got horror elements, you know.
And would you just like I asked Jeff, would you put yourself in the middle of that group, or do you identify with a certain character?
Oh no, like I wouldn't remove anybody from the dynamic.
Yeah.
Like I would just like want to hang out in the back of the van.
There you go. Scooby-Doo. Swinks.
Now mine is a bit more disturbing, my answer.
Manson family?
No. My answer goes back to when I was a kid. And I had certain crushes on kids in different TV shows. And I'm talking when I was 5 or 6 years old, right? So the first one I had was on Holly from Land of the Lost. So I'd always wanted to be part of that clan because I had a crush on Holly.
I almost went that route, dude, just for the dinosaur action.
And now that is so inappropriate because the reason I wanted to was because of my crush, but yet she would be my sister. So that is terrible.
That is.
That's a flowers in the attic situation.
You're like a creepy Chaka.
But I had a second one that's exactly the same setup, and that was Escape from Witch Mountain, the Tony and Tia. I loved Tia. I was so jealous of Tony being her brother.
Her brother. I want to be her brother. Wow.
So that was a true confessional on
we're digging deep into
shame.
Jim's psyche this week. Jean-Claude Van Damme and Holly.
So I guess we're done for this episode.
I guess we are. I think so. I think we need to just wrap this up.
Somebody make it stop.
So next week, we're coming back with another recent streaming that was just in the movie theater not too long ago, Invisible Man, which is an update. Again, it's Universal. So the Universal Studios are bringing out their cadre of monsters, but rather than have a dark universe as they were planning, now it looks like they're going the one and done kind of route. Maybe not done. Maybe they're doing a sequel to this. But Invisible Man is up next week. And Jeff, you were picking the co-feature. So what do you got?
I did pick the co-feature. I stuck within the original Universal monster, and I went with the coolest guy all, Gilman, creature from the Black Lagoon.
All right.
So, and a nice, terse, quick 54 minutes. How long was it? It was like
Dumbo length. It was
Dumbo
length.
Not long. So we'll get into it. He's my favorite.
All right. So thank you for listening.
Yes,
everybody.
Thank you very much for listening. Stay safe. Stay well.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. If you liked the podcast you just heard, then please follow TMI on all of our social media outlets. First and foremost, email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. That is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast2018. Stop over, say hi, give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, which is also TMI_podcast2018.
And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018. And it should be noted, we also have a community page, so join the forum.
And if you like to watch YouTube, you can see us at TMI Podcast 2018, all one word. Look for the popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. Or you could just go to our website, which has every link there, TMIConfessionalspodcast.com. And we'll see you at the concession stand.
We'll save some popcorn for you.
What I have to say to you, both of you? Moufie pour ton enfant.